Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to Queening with the Empress. With me, your host, Patience Pat Phiri. Today, we'll be talking about COVID-19, which is also known, and some of us are calling coronavirus, which was first recorded. The first case was recorded back in Wuhan, China, back in December 2019. And since then, it has ravaged the world and is now a pandemic, claiming over hundreds of thousands of lives. We are also, as a country, Zimbabwe, have declared it a national disaster, and many events have been postponed. We know that our 48th independence celebrations have been postponed. ZITF has been postponed. Sporting activities have been postponed. And there's now a limit of how many people can be together in one gathering. And at the last presidential speech report, it was said that it's down to 50. I know Germany has said bring it down to 2. So now we're talking about many different words: social distancing, self-quarantine, wara, all those things. And it's very scary because we are losing people. Zimbabwe has recorded the first victims of this deadly pandemic. We will be talking about it today, not because we're health experts, but we're talking about it from where it hits us the most. For me, it's hitting me the most from the angle of creative industry, because that's the industry that I work in. With all these events that are being cancelled, ZITF, independence celebrations, they were supposed to be coming to Bulawayo, my town. And as artists, we were going to be hired and have jobs and feed our families. But all that has been postponed for the next 60 days or foreseeable future. I don't know what a foreseeable future is, but that too. So just to get that, I'm biased on this situation. And just to get us started, I have joining me via video chat, Busi Bhebhe, who is a broadcasting journalist. She is a mother, she is a wife. She is also very passionate. She's very passionate about women, like I am, and trying to fix things, the developmental world. So I think we need to talk to Busi now and find out what is happening in the world. See, this is how the new world is going. We're doing video chats now. Hi, Busi. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. Nice seeing you on video chat.
To say something.
Yes, now we introduce you. You've been introduced to the show. Welcome to Queening with the Empress.
Thank you for having me, Peshi.
Thank you so much. Busi, you are a broadcasting journalist. And I did say in our intro that you're also a mother and a wife, and you're very passionate about developmental issues towards women, especially. What's going on in your life? Why are we video chatting and you're not here with me?
Well, so I had planned to join you. I mean, we talked about this about a week ago, and we had set a time, and yesterday we started talking about coming in. And then my family reminded me that we are on lockdown, and I had stopped some people from getting into town, so I couldn't bring rules myself. So I had to honor that and practice what I preach, because this social distancing thing is real. Mm-hmm. You know, we haven't been going out into town for the past 3 or so days, and the fear is that if we go out and interact, no matter how safe we try to be, might carry something back into the home that we're trying to keep safe and free of the virus for a while. So, you know, it's difficult as a mother to tell your children not to do something, and then you yourself cannot even keep those rules. So we're video chatting because I couldn't leave the house.
To stay safe for you and the family.
Yes.
How has this affected you, though?
Well, it's affected me in a big way, because I've only been able to get into work, I think this week, just the first day of the week, and then we were told that we now have to work from home, which meant that we had to be prepared in terms of data, in terms of Wi-Fi access. We had to get food stocked up. We are not yet paid. As you know, the month that ended yet. You had to look for money, you have to look for food, there are queues everywhere, and that's the kind of situation that has been told to avoid crowded areas. So for me as a woman, being the one in charge of stocking up on the food, it was a burden for me. It was also difficult because one of our children are still going to school and schools were closing on Tuesday. So having to do the school run and get things prepared was a bit difficult, but of course when you have a partner you try to work around those things. But I was thinking to myself, what about the women that are single parents? What about the women that do not work like me, or don't have a salary to look forward to? How are they stocking up? How are they managing to queue, take children to school, stock up on food, do all these things that you need to get out of the way before you say to yourself, okay, I'm closing the gate, I'm closing the doors, I'm not coming out for the next 21 days. So it's something that's been very difficult. And then one of my daughters fell ill with the cold, and because COVID has flu-like symptoms, we had to take her to the doctor at some point, and prices for the medication, something else, even the shortfall for the doctor, I can't even imagine to tell you. And this is just for a simple cold. At least that's what we think it is. What more if you do have the COVID virus? What is happening? What kind of medication do you need? What do you go through? And how much will that cost? For medical aids, have a system. They even have a plan for people that are being covered to pay for this virus, or one of those pre-existing, or I don't know what you'd call it, because this is a new virus.
Yeah.
So how do they class it under medical aid? So it's really difficult. I know I've spoken beyond my personal experiences, but these are some of the things I was thinking to myself as I was trying to prepare for the lockdown.
Okay, and as a journalist, we're seeing so much, and you're also active on social media. There is so much fake news circulating. Do you think, one, we're taking it seriously? Two, is enough information reaching the people? The correct information as well, not just information, but the correct information. Because when you go online, yes, one comment is breaking news, left, right, center, but I know when emsebenzini wakho there is ladies abaphandle abathengisayo. Do you think they have that information?
You know, Peshi, where there's a vacuum, someone or something is bound to fill it. And there's a vacuum that those with the official information should be filling. They are not. The official information is not coming through as much as we would like. It's not coming through as often as it should. And so those who are taking chances are filling the void by spreading information that unfortunately more often than not is not proven, is not verified, and is not true. So at the end of the day, you find that our WhatsApp messages are spreading more misinformation than the official channels. And as we speak, when government does communicate, they are communicating through platforms that the majority of Zimbabweans are not on. So, for example, the majority of Zimbabweans are young people, it's women and girls, and they are not on social media. A number of them don't have the time to switch on the TV or the radio because they're out there hustling. They're out there in borehole queues, because in Bulawayo, for example, City Council has water cut as the water supplies cut for the past 5 or so days, and people have had to go boreholes to get water. They have to go out to get firewood and alternative energy. So how and where do you get this official information? Because it will only come out on ZBC, it will come out through social media like your WhatsApp. A number of women cannot afford bundles. West Cutters, they are not going out there to work as much. They can't vend as easily as before. They can't hustle and get money as before. So you can imagine, our government, our local authorities, our CSOs, NGOs do not become clever about sharing the most official information. Obviously, what we'll get are social media chain messages, scare tactics, videos that have been edited from other countries, from Ebola, diseases that are long past. pretending to be current situations. So really the void is going to be filled, but who are we entrusting that void to be filled by? That's the question.
I hear you. And what you've just said, that's very scary, because we know we need to wash our hands every 20 minutes for 20 seconds. How do we wash our hands when we don't have water available?
Yeah.
And before we let you go, what's the biggest lesson you feel you've learned so far with everything that's going on?
I think for me, it's how we take small things for granted. I think this disease for me will make our authorities realize that the little things that we as women have been crying about on our side are going to touch everyone eventually. For example, when we talk about basic service delivery, mama, they have the burden of care and the burden of making a home safe and comfortable by making sure ukuthi kulamanzi, energy kuyaphekwa, kwatshiwe, kuclean endlini, ukudla kukhona. Those were burdens that women had when we could still go out there and men could leave the house every day for 8 to 10 hours to supposedly fend for the family, while mama besele endlini making home. But now that we are all stuck here at home, we are all faced by a situation yokuthi kakulazisa, amanzi, akulakudla. We all have to do something. Mama, abafana, abantwana. And the policy makers are also stuck at home. They also have to use the same hospitals that we are using, which are ill-equipped. They also have to face the situation that we are facing because they cannot easily cross the border and look for medication outside the country. This for us is a wake-up call to say, when we're making policies, we're doing development projects, let us consider from the lowest person, from the lowest of the lowest to the highest person, so that we realize what the situation when all of us are in this boat, and we cannot say so guesses are dumb. We have to all survive. So yeah, I think for me that's been the biggest lesson.
Busi, thank you so much for joining us on Queening with the Empress. We will leave you to go back to the babies and try and survive. Please stay safe.
I'll try to do the same. Thank you, hey.
Thank you, Sissy. Bye.
Yes, bye.
That was Busi Bhebhe talking to us about what's going on in her life at the moment. Join us after the break when we have another guest.
Basic information on COVID-19. 1. How can one tell if they suspect it? The case definitions are based on the current information available and will be revised as soon as new information accumulates. 2. Suspect case. A patient with acute respiratory illness, fever, and at least one sign or symptom of respiratory disease. For example, cough, shortness of breath, and a history of travel to or residence in a country or area or territory reporting local transmission of COVID-19 disease during the 14 days prior to symptom onset. Or B, a patient with any acute respiratory illness and having been in contact with a confirmed or probable COVID-19 case in the last 14 days prior to onset of symptoms. Or C, a patient with severe acute respiratory infection, fever, at least one sign or symptom of respiratory disease. For example, cough, shortness of breath, and requiring hospitalization, and with no other etiology that fully explains the clinical presentation. Confirmed case, a person with laboratory confirmation of COVID-19 infection, irrespective of clinical signs and symptoms. The City of Bulawayo Health Service Department, HSD, requires your cooperation and assistance in ensuring that suspected cases are diagnosed early and necessary infection control measures and contact tracing are followed to prevent the spread of the disease.
Welcome back to Queening with the Empress. We're still talking about the COVID-19 that has the whole world scared, and people staying at home across the world. People are on lockdowns and people are scared. Schools have been closed. Here in Zim, everything is more or less on standstill. Before the break, we spoke to Busi and she shared what was going on in her world. And now I'm being joined here by Kuda. He is with Culxure magazine, also known as Urban Culture. I keep calling it Culxure magazine, but it's all Urban Culture. Online, a publication that has won quite a number of awards. Welcome to the show, Kuda.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
In light of things?
Trying to survive. It's just difficult.
Okay. As you will see, Kuda and I are not sitting close together. We are practicing social distancing. We had to measure. We had to make sure. And we're following the rules. Kuda, you are in the information business because you're a journalist. How has this affected the news in your world? Because you do mostly entertainment and lifestyle. How has this affected the news in your world?
Yeah, for us, it has been bad because I think last night I was even trying to check our statistics.
Mm-hmm.
We have really gone down because people do not care about a new music video. They don't care about what an artist is doing currently. The focus now is on coronavirus. So even we have heard a number of stories that are centered on coronavirus. They are actually doing well compared to stories to do with lifestyle, arts and culture. People have tended to focus more on they need to know more about coronavirus. Of which it's a bit difficult because not everyone is online. So it has really affected the business of us when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to the arts, when it comes to lifestyle.
You are in the creative industry, and I want to ask you this. Do you think as creative practitioners, we are prepared, we were prepared, we are prepared, will ever be prepared for this situation where everything is going on lockdown? Siyayenza ngapha ama-show, siyabona ngapha abantu, siyadlala ngaphi, o-DJ, ama-mixtapes, sizawaziwa ngaphi, abagidayo bayagidela ngaphi. Do you think we are prepared like for this whole thing?
I think for some time, the issue of artists being online has been preached. And most of the times, our artists have never listened. It was one of those things that people didn't care about. But now, with what is happening, most of them will then try to want to do shows online or discover what maybe the numbers are not good because we were never ready. We thought we were going to continue having live shows and people coming in their numbers to attend. It can work in some parts of the world, but for us as Zimbabweans, for some of our artists, especially in Bulawayo, it's going to be a difficult phase. I think for some it will mark their death if they don't really pull up their sources.
Please be clear that you say mark their death in the professional world.
Okay. Yeah, in the professional world.
Asifuna abantu bezozigijimisa.
In the professional world of
Yeah.
arts, we might not hear of them when it comes to their creative work, because with what is happening, people are going to be opened up to a number of new things. We're going to be introduced to new artists. We're going to take up
that void.
Yeah, and use digital media to their advantage. So we were never ready.
Sure. Yeah. And I wanted to find out, because you're an online publication, do we have, I worked for a radio station many years ago, a while ago, and we had a crisis with females coming up, the numbers being more or less as much as those of males. Do you think, what happens to the females at this time? Because Baduchwan and online, do we see a lot of them online?
We don't see a lot of them online because really, I don't know what happens with our females, especially in the creative sector. They tend to hide a bit, and they do not push themselves out there. There are a number of problems that I feel come to harm females. It becomes difficult for them.
Marriage is not a bad thing, but okay, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear.
So it becomes a difficult phase for them to continue with the arts, and with this current pandemic, many of them, I bet, they're going to be introduced to other things, and they will feel like maybe the arts, they were wasting time, because now you're getting a chance maybe to sit down and think other things in life. Maybe it's not a thing that I should continue with. I should just leave. It's very bad. It's going to hit us hard. We don't have we have just a few female artists who take use of digital media. Most of our artists, especially females, they don't really use social media to their advantage.
So maybe it's what Busi was talking about, filling in a void. Yeah. So maybe this would be the perfect time for them to step in and fill in that void and provide. Okay, I hear you. Do you think we'll ever get back to normalcy? What will normalcy be in your world? What do you think will happen if after 60 days we've cancelled, we've postponed? Is it ITF independence has been postponed, which would have been content for you too that time. So what, after 60 days or whatever the foreseeable future is, do you think we'll get back on day 61 and be like, and we're back? Or kuzathathwa isikhathi?
I think it depends on what we are going to face in the 60 days. Because this pandemic is really painful, and it's taking a number of people outside Zimbabwe. What if we get to a stage where we're going to lose our loved ones and all that? So it will go back to what we are going to face in the 60 days. Because for us to be back on day 61, it depends on what we have been going through in the last 60 days. So it won't be an easy road. If we have lesser casualties, we are still going to take time, because we live in a global village. So what's affecting Italy will somehow
filter down to us.
Yes,
yeah.
Because we have artists who perform outside Zimbabwe. So now let's take for instance groups like Nobuntu, Iasa, Insingizi. All those groups make a living outside Zimbabwe. So which means whatever happens after 60 days, it also depends on how the global community is trying to structure and come back to life, because it's really...
So it's a ripple effect. It's a one tiny drop.
Yes.
Wuhan has just hit. Figure like okay, I hear that. What has been your greatest lesson during this time?
First, I think it's about savings, especially for us in the arts. The little we make, we have to try and have we dollar esofaka phansi kwemithi vele siqine ngokuthi anamali. I think the issue of trying to spend everything that we get becomes a problem, because right now, if a lockdown happens in Zimbabwe, it's going to be difficult for some of our artists. How are they going to get basic needs? Because most of our shows, when we do shows, we do from, what do they call it, from
hand to mouth. Next week, anxiety, yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. So we need to start saving. We need also to take care of our health. I have learned at times we take some of these things lightly, like even ugeza izandla. We are now so serious about ugeza izandla, but it's something that we can do every day of our lives, whether there is corona, whether there is no corona. So umuntu uyakwanisa ukufika endlini engageza izandla, igeze just because sesidla. So I think those are some of the things that we need to learn, because asikwazi ukuthi the next virus iyavela nga. So we need to be smart. And I think lastly, I've also learned that our government has to really step up when it comes to our health, medical facilities. Also, Lati as citizens, let's also find ways of making sure our health standards are up to speed. You know, when we have such a pandemic, we know how we can, as a community, Slama community clinics, most of us, we don't even know what is there and what is not there at some of our community clinics that are run by council. But I think as people in the community, we now need to know who you know should die. Because Amakhosikazi, if he's investing a call that expensive, it's something that you can ungakwazi uthenga 2 boxes and donate to the clinic. So as a community singabadi incedisana, you know what, lami ngemonthly I will donate a box of ama gloves, omnye la yabuyela ama mask. Kube izinto ezihlala zikhona. Yeah.
Thank you, Kuda. We'll be back with my royal thoughts after this.
Basic information on COVID-19. 1. How can one tell if they suspect it? The case definitions are based on the current information available and will be revised as soon as new information accumulates. 2. Suspect case. A. A patient with acute respiratory illness, fever, and at least one sign or symptom of respiratory disease. For example, cough, shortness of breath, and a history of travel to or residence in a country or area or territory reporting local transmission of COVID-19 disease during the 14 days prior to symptom onset. Or B, a patient with any acute respiratory illness and having been in contact with a confirmed or probable COVID-19 case in the last 14 days prior to onset of symptoms. Or C, a patient with severe acute respiratory infection, fever, at least one sign or symptom of respiratory disease. For example, cough, shortness of breath, and requiring hospitalization, and with no other etiology that fully explains the clinical presentation. Confirmed case, a person with laboratory confirmation of COVID-19 infection, irrespective of clinical signs and symptoms. The City of Bulawayo Health Service Department, HSD, requires your cooperation and assistance in ensuring that suspected cases are diagnosed early and necessary infection control measures and contact tracing are followed to prevent the spread of the disease.
Having listened to Busi Bhebhe, and having been home for 2 weeks, watching the news, going through social media, getting calls, talking to people around me, I am afraid. I am afraid because this thing is invisible. I am afraid because it's new. I am afraid because it seems we as a world, we're not ready for it, and it's killing us. It's dropping us like flies. I see in the first world where they have everything. They have amazing healthcare systems. They have all these things. They are recording a lot of deaths. And then I think about my country. We've been struggling for a while. We've been complaining about our health systems. Asila manzi, asila, and now I have to wash my hands, but angila manzi, agula mali. So if we lock down, lock down, how am I going to be okay? Already I'm telling you, Wuti, when the president made the announcement, Wuti, all these big events were being postponed. After his announcement, I started getting calls cancelling my jobs, my gigs. And that was the most frightening thing for me. Uguti, without income, what would happen to me for the next, say, 2 months, 3 months? How do I pay my bills? How do I survive whatever this period is? So I am afraid. I am staying home, and I hope you do too. I am washing my hands. I am staying away from forwarding izinto that I have not verified. And I ask you, before you press that forward button to your group, is it your family group, your high school group, your children, whoever, before you say that thing about COVID-19, think, is it the truth? Is it responsible? Forward, we are not taking responsibility, and we don't know how that thing is received and how people react to it. I am afraid because I feel we're not taking it very serious. Abantu loke behamba, abantu loke behamba emabawa, abantu loke benatha bonke, bekhawulana, benza ntonton. And I'm like, can we just be responsible? So I'm afraid for myself that I want to be here when this thing is done. I want to tell the story of how we won. I want to salute those that we lost during this period, the ones that are known and those that are not known. So that's my thing. I am afraid. I am really afraid. And I am worried about the next few weeks. So I hope wherever you are, you stay safe. Remember to wash your hands. Remember to not touch your face. That's one thing I'm struggling with, not to touch your face. Remember, with abantu bemzini, like if it's not necessary for you to travel, let's take time. Do garden, clean your house, change stuff, wash things. Take out clothes put them together. Maybe let's donate those things. Let's do something worthwhile with our time. Let's journal. Let's find new things to do instead of spreading the virus around. So if we sit at home, it also stays. So from me and the crew, we hope you stay safe and catch you next week. Bye.